This is Jeff Ponder of the NHL Hockey Online, your home of NHL League analysis. I'm speaking with Doug Stolhand of the Puck Podcast, which is a weekly hockey podcast that is the #1 rated hockey podcast on iTunes. Doug, thanks for taking the time to talk about some hockey.
No problem, Jeff. Always good to talk hockey.
Let's talk a little about the man that is Doug Stolhand first. You list Tustin, California as your hometown, knowing that actors Cuba Gooding Jr. and Matthew Lillard, Major League Baseball player Shawn Green, and former All-Star Mark Grace are also from your hometown. Would you still consider yourself the pride of Tustin?
No, and I did not know that Cuba Gooding Jr. was from Tustin. Is that right?
Yes, it is. I knew you'd love that, too.
Oh, my goodness. That's embarrassing. I have to look up how old Cuba is. He might have been in my age bracket back in Tustin. But no, Tustin is it's a nice town in the middle of Orange County and very close to Anaheim, which is why I'm a Ducks fan. I grew up pretty much born and raised there. Loved it. Loved going back there. And the city of trees, that's what they call it. But there's many of those out here. I would say of all the Tustin graduates, I would say Mark Grace is the pride of Tustin, and Shawn Green a close second.
All right. Well, no love for Matthew Lillard, huh?
No, not at all. After seeing 13 Ghosts, he gets no love for me, and even though he won an Academy Award, Cuba Gooding Jr. is certainly not the pride of Tustin.
Well, as you mentioned, you are a Ducks fan. The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim were founded in 1993 by the Disney Corporation. Would you say that this was the biggest contribution to your love of the sport?
Probably, actually no, honestly. It was I wasn't a huge hockey fan in the 80s because there was no team close to me. We're about 40, 50 miles south of LA, and as is the case with a lot of big cities, we never went up to LA for anything except for, Dodger games or a Laker game every now and then, big events. You didn't just go to LA. We had everything we needed in Orange County. It's not like we're living in the middle of nowhere, so I didn't go to a lot of Kings games. It wasn't a big sport out here when I was growing up, and we certainly had no youth leagues going on like they do now, so there was no opportunity for me to play the sport. I really got into hockey when I went to college, and the Fresno Falcons, a minor league team in Fresno, California, I went to Fresno State, and I started following them. I ended up being play-by-play and color commentary in 2 different seasons for them on the radio, and that's when I really got into hockey. When the Ducks came around, that just gave me a team to root for because I didn't have one up until then. But when they put a team literally 10 miles from my house, I said I'm in, and I thought it was very cool to have the opportunity to follow a team from the very beginning and remember all the players, all the coaches, and the entire history, and eventually watch them go from being an expansion team to Stanley Cup champs.
Well, I recently interviewed your co-host of the Puck Podcast, Eddie Garcia, and he told me that you are possibly even more cynical than you seem on the show. Would you agree with that statement?
No, absolutely not. Well, that I appear on the show, possibly. I'm a weird combination of cynicism and optimism. Honestly, I'm an optimist, and I think the best of people the majority of the time. But when I see BS, I call it, and that seems to be what I call out the most. I don't point out, I consider myself like the nightly news. You don't hear stories about good things going on in the news because nobody wants to hear about that. You hear stories about the crime, the corruption, the seedy underbelly of the city, and that's what people are interested in. And so that's the kind of stuff that I bring up to people because that's what I get the most comedy out of, really, in my cynicism. And when I get fired up about something and I get angry about some meaningless thing like a movie or a preview or something ridiculous that means nothing, that seems to get a big kick out of everybody, and so that's what I do. But honestly, I'm an optimist at heart. I think the best of society, and I love watching. One of my favorite things of sports is seeing crowds when the home team wins, and there's just a great moment because to see like 18,000 people all cheering as hard as they can, and that's just fun to me. That's what sports is all about. I remember going to an Angels game in the playoffs in 2002, and I was sitting in a scattered single seat from my friend. He was about 6 or 7 rows behind me. Tim Salmon hits a home run into our section, and I went running up there with the intention of celebrating with him. I overshot him by 3 or 4 rows and ended up hugging a complete stranger who was hugging me back because field or on the ice brings you all together.
Now, what would you say is the most rewarding part of doing the podcast every week?
To me, it's hanging out with Eddie, because we used to be college roommates, and then we were roommates down here in LA when we both first started working for Fox Sports. And now that we're both married and living in two completely different areas, he actually ironically lives in Orange County and I live in Los Angeles County, we don't get to see each other except for when we record the show. So to me, the best part is getting to hang out with him, a good friend, and talk hockey with him for a couple hours every week. That's, to me, the best part of the show.
Well, switching our bases to the NHL, they're going to take a brief 2-week break during their long NHL season starting Monday, February 15th, so that the NHL players can compete in the 2010 Olympics. Do you agree with these players being able to skate in the Olympics?
I do. I understand that it's a hassle to basically shut down the league in mid-season. I mean, we got a lot of momentum going here. I'm used to watching games every single night when I get home from work. I turn on the TV, there's a hockey game on every single night, and that's still going to be the case. It's just not going to be NHL hockey. It's going to be the Olympics. But it's every 4 years, and it's not too much of a distraction, I don't think. That it's, I think the pros outweigh the cons. I think being able to see the absolute best players in the world compete for their country in the Olympics once every 4 years is outstanding, and that's worth whatever negatives happen to occur to the NHL.
The Russians seem to have possibly the best 3 forwards in the Olympics, with Evgeny Malkin of Pittsburgh, Ilya Kovalchuk of, well, now the Devils, and of course, Alexander Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals. What will it take for other teams to shut these guys down, in your opinion?
If they play on one line, it's going to take outscoring them, because you're not going to shut them down for 60 minutes. I mean, we know that those guys, Kovalchuk and Ovechkin especially, are used to playing a lot of minutes, well over 20 minutes a night, and I'm sure that's going to be the case in the Olympics, and they're going to turn those guys loose. I think you just need to do as best a job. Forget about playing the man and trying to separate him from the puck, and just worry about staying where you're supposed to be on the ice. Let your goalie see the shot, clear the traffic from the front of the net, get the rebounds out of there, give him one shot per entry into the zone, get it back out, and make him carry it back in, and that's the best you can do. But honestly, I think it's going to come down to having to outscore that line, because I don't think any defensive pairing or group of any team can actually just shut those guys down for an entire game. They're going to get their chances, and they're going to get their goals. You just got to hope that they don't go crazy and get 5 or 6 goals a night.
Well, Team